I used to have a
45.
Kimber. Do you remember Kimber? I don't
Yep.
even know if they're still out or not, but when Kimber first came out.
Beware of guns named after strippers.
Yeah, but I
You can't get them as a sponsor now, Clint.
Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Clint Macro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union. And now, your hosts.
Welcome, everybody, to Meet the Pressers. My name is Clint Macro, and this is my co-host, Matthew Mallory. Meet the Pressers is a safe place for trigger pressers and people of the defensive mindset to gather and congregate and fellowship and talk about guns, gear, gadgets, training, sometimes religion, and political activism.
This episode is brought to you by Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is sponsored by Next Level Training, Saber Red, Cutting Edge Bullets, the USCCA, McLean Corporation, ASP, Custom Poker Chip Company, Common Sense Self-Defense, and T1 Ammunition. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Today, we have two special guests. One of them has been on the show before, Mr. Dale Comstock. And Matt, why don't you go ahead and introduce our other featured guest?
Definitely. Joseph Teti is a veteran and also co-star of Dual Survival, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you on, sir. Anything else that I missed on that? I know you've got a illustrious career, and I kind of skated over a lot, but.
Boy, yeah, I mean, short and sweet. I actually left for the Marine Corps about 10 days after I graduated high school. The proverbial 99-pound weakling, went in the Marines, boot camp Parris Island, infantry school, Camp Geiger. I was actually an honor graduate out of infantry school. And while I was there, they had a recruiting team from 2nd Force Recon come, which at that time was the only force reconnaissance unit in the Marine Corps. There was only one. And so that was in the early 80s. So I went to 2nd Force, and then I was there for 3 years. My last year, I was in 3rd Recon Battalion in Okinawa. Got out, break in service, moved to Vegas, went to UNLV, became a stockbroker, of all things, and I was a stockbroker for Bear Stearns for about 5 years, maybe. Mildly successful, but I was the proverbial round peg in a square hole, you know. So I did that for a bit, and then I went back in SF. I went to SFASQ course, and then right when I was getting ready to ETS, I was contacted by a government counter-terrorist unit that actually Dale and I served in together, and that's where I met Dale. And then all of my deployments downrange to Afghanistan, Iraq, and other beautiful vacation spots was with that unit. So, and that's pretty much the nickel tour. And that's how I met Dale as well.
So Dale, you guys are working together on a project. I know you're a man of business and you have your hands in many different pots. What's the project that you guys are working together, and what was the genesis of that?
Yeah, so Joe and I started a company called Tier 1 Performance Coaching. And back in January, I got a call from Joe, and Joe said, listen, so there's a little backstory with this thing. So Joe, after he left the show, Dual Survival, was kind of under the radar doing his own thing, flipping houses, a lot of other stuff that he was involved in, and wrote his book. And he told me, hey, my book's coming out, and, I want to kind of reset everything and basically start a new life, so to speak. And he was really interested in coming to Bali, where I also live. So I live in Bali, Indonesia, and I also live here in Panama City Beach. So I commute back and forth. But anyways, and he said, I want to really come to Bali, kind of do what you're doing, live a different life. And it is a different world. I mean, it really is. Only reason I come back to Florida is because I have a daughter here in Panama City Beach, and I come back for her, and I maintain a home for her. If it wasn't for her, I'd probably never come back. It's paradise, literally paradise. And so, he said, I want to come over there. And so we got talking about, the question was, well, what are you going to do, for, income and, how we're going to survive over there. And so we kicked some cans down the street. And originally we were going to start a survival school there because there's about 4 to 6 million tourists that come there every year to Bali, and it's a small island. And so there's a lot of activities there. And we thought it'd be kind of cool, open up some type of a jungle, or not jungle school, but a survival school. Because you got an ocean, you got jungle, all kinds of things. And so that was the initial plan. And then I've been doing on the side, I've also been doing personal and professional performance coaching for about the last 3 years. And we got talking about that, and we decided, well, why don't we both team up and do, the coaching stuff? Because after doing, I already kind of knew this, but Joe started digging into it. He's like, man, there are a lot of guys out there that are making literally tens of millions of dollars a year. And I'll name a few. I won't by name, but we're talking about elite stockbrokers, what they call themselves, bankers, that went through a weekend warrior course at some SEAL thing or whatever, and suddenly they've appropriated this culture, this military culture, and they even use the taglines of warrior camp and stuff like that. And I'm going to make you a better man. You come to my training, and they're charging ridiculous amounts of money, and they don't have, as far as I'm concerned, do not have the level of skill sets that Joe and I combined can bring to the table. And it's not just, our certificates and stuff like that. It's also the delivery and our insight on how to succeed in life. You said it a minute ago, I got my hands in many dikes, so to speak. And as far as business is concerned, a lot of other things. And it's because of this certain type of mindset that we're promoting. It is a mindset. In fact, it's a frequency, literally a frequency. Albert Einstein said, if you want to be successful, you need to get on a frequency of success. And it's not how many times you do it. It's literally frequency, electromagnetic frequency. And so we are teaching something completely that's not well understood by the average person, but it's central to our successes. When you look at, Joe's resume and his BIOS, you look at mine, it's like we've achieved quite a bit in our lifetime. And it's not because we work harder necessarily, it's because we work smarter. And we also understand that there's this other thing out there, I don't want to call it a secret, but for most people it is a secret. They don't understand it. But there's another thing out there that will allow you to succeed without having to work hard. And by working smarter and by thinking your way through it, you can achieve about anything you want to do in life. So that sounds like
it sounds like with the marketing aspect of it is really what they're pushing. They see a gold mine, and then they're taking that and they've got the marketing behind them. And it's kind of reminiscent of like a third-person shooter game or something, right? Somebody who's been on there. You always see the little skits where somebody comes out and, hey, have you ever shot a 50 cal? Oh yeah, I shot a 50 cal. And they're like 15, like when? Oh, it was on, this one game Sniper Recon or whatever on my Xbox.
Exactly.
Yeah, that just popped in my head when you said that, as far as these people taking the training and they see. I mean, the good thing is they see it and they're a marketer, but the bad thing is that they don't know outside of that training that they took. They have no real world application. Yeah. They have no way to see if the wheels come off it. Well, what do you do now?
That's exactly right. And that's something that it really shocked me, because Dale's been doing this for a while. And when I started looking into it and seeing who these people were and the amount of money that they were charging, and I could do simple math, I'm not, a mathematical genius, but I know if you're running so many students through a course a year and you're charging $10,000 a person, and it was just staggering, because I was saying to myself, how are these guys that didn't have these backgrounds, these warrior backgrounds, teaching guys how to be warriors, strictly from a book smarter, like Dale said, I went to this 2-day, warrior camp, SEAL camp, whatever the case may be. It just shocks me that they were able to market that, Matt. That's staggering. And you got to take your hat off to them, because, to be able to market that and get that many people and not have the credentials to teach it blew me away. And that's why I called Dale. I'm like, dude, this is, I can't believe this. We should do something.
Fake it till you make it.
Well, my litmus test is always, is it safe? Is it ethical and contextually appropriate? And I don't have the military background that you guys do, but I have full confidence in my ability to teach my fellow law-abiding citizens how to conceal carry a firearm and make good decisions as a law-abiding citizen. So that's the contextually appropriate thing. But I would not go and teach someone to do like SF survival school, because where's the integrity there, right?
Sure. No, it's a good point, and so I like to think that me and Joe, we're men of integrity. I am. I'll tell you right now, you're not going to find any gray area out there on me. There might be some people who might lie about it, but, to me, integrity is everything. And there's a big part of me in business, particularly, that there's definitely ways to get around things and cheat and pay people under the table. But that's not how I was raised, and certainly not raised in the Army as well either, right? And it's honor and integrity. But the good news is, other people have recognized that. We do have some very large marketing companies now behind us that are putting their wallets behind us to promote us. And so I will tell you that watch us probably within the next year. And there's a timeline. We've got a roadmap to success, so to speak. You're going to see something that you probably haven't seen before, and we're gonna change the industry just because we have this. We have the certain skills, we have the experiences, and ultimately, I think it's our honor, our integrity, and our willingness to help other people. It's not just about the money. I have a lot of clients that I coach. Some of them can't afford it. They're literally out of work, broke, living in empty trailers, and they're good people, that have nothing and they need to get ahead. And I'm willing to lend my time, to kind of help get them redirected and inspire them to move forward, because we all gonna hit the bottom sometime, and I look at it like this: when I hit the bottom, I use that as an opportunity to bounce really high.
Hey folks, this is Jeff Gonzalez with Trident Concepts. I'm super excited to be on the show, Meet the Pressers with Matt and Klint. Make sure you're following us on all the social media. Definitely check it out. Until then, adios.
Meet the Pressers.
Well, Joe, I can imagine trying to keep up with him has to be a challenge in itself. This man is like on 100 miles an hour, like Energizer Bunny speed. I think.
If I start talking, man, I will stop, right?
Yeah, but that's great. But I can say, like, working with Matt, it's such a refreshing thing to be teamed up with someone else that can match your power and maybe even exceed it and push you to strive even further. So how do you feel about working with this man?
Yeah, so I've owned, oh my Lord, at least a dozen businesses I've sold to. I've made, like Dale said, I've made a lot of money. I've lost money too. The times I've lost money, it's because of the partner. And I can honestly say that either flat ripped off or just the partner didn't perform. Yeah. The great thing about Dale is I know where he comes from. I know him personally. We served together downrange. He's the man of honor, integrity. He's not a guy that, if we're talking, I say, hey, Dale, can you do this? And then, not have to worry that it's being done. And same with him. I don't have to micromanage Dale. He doesn't have to micromanage me. Yep. We have great communication. That's another thing. We respect each other. We communicate. And of course, do we agree on everything? Of course not. But that's what makes a great business. You get that synergy going, and we've done it many times, Dale, where we talked about some of the way the website should be, wording. We start talking, and boom, the idea that I had and the idea he had, we actually make something that's even better. So yeah, it's great. But yeah, Dale's a super successful guy. He's done very, very well for himself. In the military, government, business, financially. And I respect that. That's who I want to be in business with. I want to be in business with someone that's at my level or better, because that's how I'm going to get better.
Hey, we got one more element in this thing, right? We kind of didn't mention it. It's my daughter. My daughter Danielle.
Oh yes, Danielle.
She's doing actually all the internet marketing stuff. I mean, she developed our websites, all that stuff, right? And she's very savvy on that. And she also is a performance coach. She actually coaches women entrepreneurs on internet marketing techniques, and she does very well at it. And in fact, she's the one that talked me into doing personal performance coaching 3 years ago. But the funny thing is, right, so she's a lot like me. And one day, so when we first started teaming up, we basically said, okay, Danielle, we're going to defer to you on how to, make all this, how to market this stuff, because that's, key. Mm-hmm. And without that, we have nothing. And so that's been her mission. And I remember one day she, so Joe and I, being the kind of type A personalities we are, we decide we're going to run with the ball the way we want to run it. When she's actually coaches go, no, it's got to go this way. No, we want to go this way because we don't know what we're doing, but it just feels right. And And finally, she put us in check, especially Joe. And he was so pissed off. He's like, huh? And he called me up later. He goes, dude, he goes, if it was your daughter or anybody else, I'd have fired her on the spot. I go, dude, I said, you know what? My daughter doesn't sugarcoat anything. She's also a little American badass.
That's a Dale Comstock daughter for
She
sure.
don't pull no punches. I was like really proud. I go, you better get used to it. You know, I mean, she could roll over and go, okay, yes, Joe, whatever you want. No, she's going to push back.
What I've always found interesting with any of my business ventures is you go into it with a notion of like, what's my mission? What do I want to do? And once you actually start, the business actually starts doing its thing, it evolves.
Yes.
It's like every business I've had that was successful, and I've had plenty that weren't. The ones that were successful, they were successful a little bit differently than I thought they were going to be. You know, maybe it evolved into something else, or I ended up servicing a client that I didn't actually recognize prior to.
You know, everything's work in progress. You know, business is always work in progress.
Yeah.
You're always raising the bar, and you know, if you're not going forwards, going backwards, that whole thing. So it's exciting. You know, I like Dale said, I love to teach. That is my passion, whether it's, you know, performance coaching or any kind of tactical training. I just enjoy training because I learn something from it all the time myself.
Yeah.
So
It's
a great fit.
You know, and when you build a team, you know, so here's the teacher coming out of me. You know, there's 5 stages to team building. You know, the first one is forming, followed by storming. It's where everybody's locking horns and trying to position and figure out where they belong in this whole thing. And eventually, you know, everything kind of normalizes, and then you start performing. And hopefully, we never adjourn. You know, that the fifth stage is actually termination. You know, adjourning. But you know, I'm sure one day when we die, we'll adjourn. But so it's, you know, so we're in these phases, but we're in the norming performing phase now. We got through the storming phase. And everybody knows their seat in the cockpit, and now we're going to fly this thing together.
Folks, it's Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. I train cops in all 50 states. I train every military armed forces, all of our Tier 1 Spec Ops. I also train civilian sheepdogs. My book on combat is the definitive reference for those who are going to be in the fight. Issued in the DA Academy, Marshals Academy, Marine Corps Commandant's required reading. A lot of other books, but one of the ones for your purposes is my book, Sheepdogs. It's for kids. It's about becoming a sheepdog, getting their head right, getting their heart right. It talks a lot about military law enforcement sheepdogs. People said, Dave, I'm at the NRA every year. What about all of us civilian sheepdogs? Well, we wrote the book, Why Mommy Carries a Gun. But for all of you sheepdogs out there, all you magnificent Americans who are pushing the frontiers of freedom, you need to be at Meet the Pressers. I love that name. We're all trigger pressers. We are all pressers. Come meet the pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro. Awesome Americans in the front lines of freedom. Be there. You'll be glad you did.
Meet the Pressers.
I actually use so this is one of the things I like to talk about sometimes is when it comes to business development and starting a business, I actually use the same approach that I would a Special Forces FID mission, Foreign Internal Defense, right? I actually use an operations order format for my business plan. You know, all this MBA stuff, I'm not knocking it, but I like to simplify everything. So my approach is very similar to using a military operations order format and a FID mission format, right? So, you know, once you're operational, you know, you have to be able to do what? You have to be able to frago a mission, right? Fragmentation order means the mission, we've got to deviate because it's not going to go exactly to plan. There's some other elements that are presented that are going to create these variables that we're going to have to either negotiate or you know, whatever. And so, so it's a fragmentation order, so to speak. We're going to frago this thing, and we're going to deviate a little bit to the right, and then move forward, right? So it's all part of it's an evolutionary process. Business is evolutionary. If you go into it, you know, with this mindset that it's going to be, you know, this perfect construct, and we're going to do it exactly like this, you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not allowing for the variables and all the unexpected variables. And by the way, with time, everything changes, man. You know, even, you know, like security, for example, you know, every time in the security world, a bad guy does something, you know, unique, it's like, shit, we got to come up with a countermeasure, right, to defend against it. As soon as you do that, he's figured out another plan to overcome that one. And, so, and we're always one step behind the adversary, you know, usually 2 steps, right? And the only way you get ahead of your adversary or even your business competitors is to anticipate the next paradigm, be able to look way down the road and go, you know what, this is what's going to happen. I can kind of see a trend going this way and try to get in front of it rather than trying to play catch up. And that's the difference between people that succeed in business and those that get left behind. You have to be evolutionary in your way of thinking. You have to anticipate paradigms, the next paradigm. You also have to challenge paradigms and enculturation, because a lot of times we're enculturated in a mindset that it has to be this way. And I found that the best way to run a business is think asymmetrically, way outside the box. That's why I use the FID mission, the Special Forces approach to this whole thing, winning hearts and minds. And it's just this mindset that Joe, all of us have, inculcated it, and learned it, since the time we were in the military. I'm pretty sure that when you approach your business, your business plan, you're thinking with a military mindset more so than, a civilian corporate mindset, because it's already ingrained in us.
Shock and awe, man. Shock and awe.
Yeah. I always tell people, man, the military is the best show in town, because whether you know it or not, they've already given you the essential tools for business development. You don't even know it yet, right? And so you have a lot of experience. Anybody who's a veteran out there, man, you have more knowledge than you think you know, and you're probably going to be more effective than your peers as soon as you step out in the world. And you're highly competitive. Don't discount what you learn in the military, man. They've given you an MBA. Use
it was huge for me when I got out. I interviewed with a Marine. I was going to say former Marine, but once a Marine, always a Marine, right? Interview with a Marine who was the area manager for Arby's down in North Carolina. Down in it was North Carolina. So I ended up, when I got out, I went up as an assistant manager of Arby's. I was basically just learning the roles, and then they ended up terminating the general manager of one of the Arby's that they put me in as the assistant manager after I got trained, and they fired him and made me the interim. So the entire month of December, I worked I was 21 years old and worked every single day except for Christmas Day because we were closed. I lived an hour from the location. I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was in Research Triangle Park, RTP, Durham, North Carolina. And I basically almost slept at the restaurant some nights because I was so exhausted from being there. But because of that, I got promoted. I was the youngest general manager in Arby's history at 21 years old, and in charge of almost $1 million a year restaurant. And I've carried that forward. And even now, like Taser, I seen the writing on the wall. Like you were saying, Dale, it's right in the back of my head, exactly what I thought. I said, okay, listen, Taser's selling tasers to New York residents now because of the judge's ruling, because of the 2016 Supreme Court ruling on tasers and stun guns. So I got certified as a taser instructor. I'm New York State's first civilian taser instructor. And I put the first course on. I taught the first class of people in New York State to take the course, and nobody else has that credit. And even USCCA, I'm the first training counselor and first senior training counselor in New York State. So I'm right there with you. When you say that hit home. That's exactly my mind says. See that wave and get on the top of that wave so that you beat your competitors out.
Yeah, I've always just been ambitious. I worked for somebody for 2 months the summer after I graduated high school, and I said, I'm never working for somebody ever again. So I'm the somebody I work for. So I get to put up with my own boss.
Hey, no lie, guys. I was involved in a business not too long ago. I recently sold my interest not long ago, and I worked, I'm not exaggerating, 381 days without a day off. And no joke.
Tough.
And money's great. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I got my Z06 Corvette parked behind this white or this black drape here. I like nice things. Don't get me wrong, but you got to have quality of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You guys are successful. You all done very, very well. Dale's one, we've all done well, but you got to have quality of life. And that was something when Dale and I were talking, about this in the beginning. I just wanted quality of life. I'm comfortable financially right now. I got no worries. Everything's good for now. But like Dale said, you know what? That all can go away. It don't take a lot. I don't care how many millions of dollars you got in the bank. That can all go away real quick. But yeah, it's just quality of life for Dale and I right now, and trying to keep the drama life out of it.
Yeah, well, drama's we need to avoid drama whenever possible.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anybody good.
And speaking of that, I mean, you guys have alluded to a lot of things as far as being successful in the industry. You both have been on TV. You both have been in the military, right? So when we come around to that, there's going to be people that we run across in life, and I think all four of us have had these types of people, whether they're friends, competitors, just people in the woodwork, whatever, that come out. And even more now, it's scary with the ERPOs, emergency risk protection orders, the red flag laws and such, even bearing false witness, swatting, and different things like that people are doing and such. And the classes that Clint and I teach, and especially like my Article 35, I talk to people about that you just rub somebody the wrong way and they could call the cops on you and lie, and they'd have no conscience whatsoever of how it's going to affect your life. That's scary.
Yeah, it is. I've actually been very familiar with what you just said in a very heinous way. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to give this individual a whole lot of time, and I he's had enough time in the limelight. But I had a friend of mine, and literally we were very close friends. I babysat his son when he was shooting a show. But long story short, this gentleman's name's Michael Hawkeye. Dale knows, and I'll let Dale say his piece if he wants. But, when I got on Dual Survival, this gentleman, well, he's not a gentleman. This individual really went after me online. He originally started talking in a very surreptitious way. He was hiding his identity. And then finally I called him on it, and he kind of came out of the closet about it. And long story short, he wouldn't stop. So in 2014, I sued him. And I can say this legally. I've already talked to my attorney about it, and I've posted it on my Facebook page, Joseph Teti Dual Survival. I sued him, and in 2016, he settled out of court for an undisclosed amount of money. And to this day, he continues. After I've sued him. Yes, sir. I know, Matt.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he actually, no lie, when my book came out, I told my publisher, I guarantee you within 72 hours, you will be getting a phone call or an email right on the money. Called my publisher, sent him stuff. I mean, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I understand if somebody doesn't like a person, that's one thing. But this individual has called me a felon, stolen valor, that I was kicked out of every unit I've ever been in. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. And this is a guy I used to work with and a friend,
Wow.
And he tried out for Dual Survival, and he wasn't picked, and I was. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm going to say this right now, I've posted this stuff on my Facebook page. It's all there for people to see. I've got the letter from my attorney. Oh, here's the other thing. He told everybody but Santa Claus. As a matter of fact, I got a letter from Santa Claus right here, I think. Yeah, that I dropped the case because of some general comment. That is a complete lie. A complete lie. And if you go on my Facebook page, there is a letter from my attorney stating so. He settled out of court for an undisclosed amount of money. This guy went after Dale too. So Dale, I don't want to speak for you, but if you want to say anything, you go ahead.
Yeah, this guy, so I've known him. So let me back up a little bit. I've known Joe since 2008. We've worked together overseas. We've worked together at CONUS on different projects. So first of all, Joe is not stolen valor. He's never come out and said he's went to combat with the military. He has been to combat because he and I have been slinging lead together downrange. So yeah, to me, that makes him a veteran of combat. And I don't know how else you would describe that, right? He was a contractor. He wasn't a security guard or anything like that. We were going out literally prosecuting targets together directly. And so I vouched for Joe, and suddenly I became also the next target for supporting Joe. Well, I'm a man of integrity, and so I'm gonna stand for what is right. So I did. I backed Joe up on it, even though a lot of people were coming after him. And I have personal knowledge that this guy, he told me this because he didn't realize that Joe and I were friends at the beginning, that he was gonna basically do everything he could to undermine Joe. And I told him, I said, I don't think you should be saying something like that to me, because that's really not too cool. Anyway, to make a long story short, so I've been in the middle of this thing. I've seen directly what has happened. And Joe is right. He did sell out of court because I was on my way up there to testify on Joe's behalf. because I had direct knowledge of what I was told by this other individual. And it was at that point he realized, I guess, that, that was a game changer for him. And he did settle out of court along with several other people that were involved in the lawsuit. It was all slanderous. It was originally, I was told by the other guy, it was over a knife design. I'm like, are you kidding me? You losing your shit over a knife design, And then I found out about the whole TV show stuff, and I was like, okay, it's starting to make some sense now.
Man, if that passion and that energy could be redirected into something positive, imagine what they could do for their own success or for that of their family.
And guys, let me say this right now for those that are listening. Get on the computer and pull up the Stolen Valor Act. What is so crazy is this guy was telling people what it is not. The Stolen Valor Act has to do with the saying that you've got medals, okay? Right. Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Medal of Honor, saying you've got those when they've never been conferred and going and using that information and obtaining money for it. Okay, That's the Stolen Valor Act.
Right.
That is the law. Pull it up yourself and read it. I have never, ever talked about medals that I've not been conferred. Never. And again, I will challenge anybody watching this. Show me a picture of me wearing a uniform or me talking about medals that I have not been conferred. Period. Never happened. The unit I was in that I served with Dale didn't give out medals. Actually, Dale, they did. There were actually 2 medals, and we're not going to talk about them because we know what they are. And if we do talk about them, we're going to know what organization. But anyway, Dale and I don't have those, okay? So that's what the Stolen Valor law is. But what Mr. Hawkeye has told people is that because I called myself a combat veteran, that's Stolen Valor. Well, you know what? Like Dale said, what am I supposed to call myself? I served in combat with Tier 1 units. I've been side by side with blue guys, which those of you who don't know what that is, that's SEAL Team 6. And I've been side by side with green guys in Iraq, that's Delta. Mm-hmm. Okay, serving, doing missions with those guys. They can call themselves combat veterans and I can't. Well, you know what? I think that's a crock of shit.
The problem with all this is, right, it's not like it's some childish playground feud, because actually Joe in the beginning never reciprocated at all. And it came a point that, Joe, man, if you don't push back,
it's gonna look like
you're going to get overrun in a bad way, right? And that's exactly what happened. And he was pushed into finally file a lawsuit, which was very expensive. It was very expensive for everybody, particularly the losers. But nonetheless, what a waste of time all that was.
Yeah. Right.
And so, so here we are, today, we still don't want to look. I don't care about this guy. There's a psychopathy there, right? He's got some issues, no doubt. Nobody does that of sane mind.
Right.
And so, and will he relent? Absolutely not. I promise you he'll be back. And he's already back, and he'll continue because he has no choice. He has no out. It's either be quiet and eat a lot of crow, or come out and try to fire back and defend yourself. But ultimately, there was a lot at stake here because Joe had lost a lot of endorsements, had a profound effect on some serious financial and professional consequences because it just lingered too long, and so the decision was made at one point. It's time to fight back. And now that we thought it was over, here it comes again. He raised her ugly head.
I'd like to button this up with one comment.
All right.
And Dale, I apologize to Dale professionally and personally for him being attacked by this guy and heinous things being said about Dale. I do owe Dale an apology and I've told him that because of this individual. But I will tell you this, and I'm saying this to anybody listening. I will not sit back this time. I promise you, I've got the money and I've got the attorneys. This time, I will sue again, whoever it is, whether it's Mr. Hawkeye, if he doesn't keep his mouth shut. I will sue him again. And this time, I will not settle out of court. I don't care if he backs up an 18-wheeler full of gold bullion and dumps it in my yard. I will not settle out of court this time. I will make him stand in front of a judge and jury and explain why he is continuing to do the same thing that he was sued for in 2014 and settled out of court in 2016. Now, I'm not a judge or an attorney, but I got a really hard time believing that anybody is going to listen to an excuse on why have you not stopped. So anyway, that is the road that this is going. I hope it doesn't come to that. I've asked people on my Facebook page to pray for Mike. Lord knows he needs it. You know, I feel bad for everything that's happened. But Dale is right. This time I'm not waiting. I will drop the hammer real fast. I'm already in touch with my attorneys, you know, and I've already sent a letter to him in regards to this, that he needs to stop. And we shall see how it goes. But anyway.
Well, it's prudent to prepare for the worst, and then we can only hope for the best, that maybe all this will diffuse and won't have to waste any more negative energy. And
exactly. And that's what this is. It's negative energy. But again, now, you know, that I'm in a better position in life, financially, everything, I'm letting other people worry about it if it comes to that. So anyway, let's talk about guns or something.
Yeah, well, actually, to round that up, Dale, I appreciate your character, because a lot of people getting, for lack of a better term, in bed with someone on a new venture, and this kind of shit happens, will just drop the ball like a hot potato and run. And so I really appreciate your character in
Absolutely.
standing up with your business partner.
I've always been a guy that's kind of stand my ground as far as, you know, when it comes to, you know, my integrity and doing the right thing. And I'm willing to stand in the beating zone, you know, for Joe, if that's what it takes. I'm willing to do that for any of my friends. I don't care who you are, you know, and I'll stand for what is right, because I believe I always have. That's been my, you know, that's what's defined me in my life. That's why I did the things I did in the military. And if I did anything less than that, then I'm not that guy that I pretend to be, right? So it's the right thing to do. And I have no problem with Joe. You know, and to be honest with you, you know, I'm not saying Joe's going to do anything like that, but if somehow, for some reason, I get screwed again, so you know what? I'm Dale Comstock. I'll build another damn business. I'll make more money. I don't care. Bring it.
Hey, greetings, everyone. This is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. You know, once upon a time when I was in Congress, I went on a show called Meet the Press. But I'm more so interested in being with Matt and Klint on Meet the Pressers, because they're much more exciting, much more fun, because I can't think of anything better than to be able to exercise my Second Amendment right in pressing that trigger. So join me and stay tuned with Matt and Klint at Meet the Pressers.
Meet the Pressers.
The answer might be the same, but what's your favorite carry gun, your favorite home defense gun, or your just favorite gun in general? They may be three different ones, or they might be the same. Go.
Yeah, so I actually carry a Compact 45. For all my enemies out there listening, I'm pretty good with it, but I do carry an M1911 because that's what I've always shot in the unit, and I got really good at it. I carry some Glocks as well, but you know, the Glocks don't feel really good in my hand, not like a 45, so I'm really good at a 45. Even cold gun shooting, I can pull that 45 out and you know, drive nails with it. For my home defense, I actually sleep with guns all over my house when I have them, and but I actually like my AR-15. I've got Actually, I got a cool FNFAL that's got an 8-inch barrel on it and a 7.62, and it's considered a pistol. It's about that long, but you know, that one will definitely put big holes in little people. But normally I carry a pistol, a 45. That's my gun for the most part, and I feel pretty comfortable with that. And if I have to do any of the long-range shooting, I'll pull out my ARs or my FNFAL. So basically, that's it.
Cool. Joe, how about you?
Okay, so yeah, so like I've never been a 1911 fan, so this is where like Dale and I are like on opposite sides. I don't like the way it feels in my hand. I've got kind of big hands, so I love a Glock. The unit that Dale and I served in after he got out of SF and Delta, they issued Glocks. So I became a huge fan of the Glock 17. So yeah, Glock 17, EDC, home protection, dude, Remington 870 Express Magnum. I love a shotgun for home defense. Mm-hmm. And then obviously like ARs are great. Any AR platform I love, but for everyday carry, you know, I definitely a Glock 17 or Glock 17C, the compensated model. I don't like the Glock 19. It's just too small in my hand. I can shoot it, but I love the Glock 17. So those are my picks. Yeah.
I like the Glock 19. It's my everyday carry. The angle fits me better and it's much less complex. But I will say, I don't think you're an American if you don't own a 45.
That's right. That's right.
So if you don't own one, Joe, you need.
I gotta go. All right, hold on. Let me get a note here.
Yeah, you guys make sure you make enough money in your first year. You can buy one from Cabot Guns. It's made out of like meteorite and has mastodon tusk.
All right. Well, I owned a Kimber way back in the day, and I remember I traded it for something. I don't even remember what it was, but yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm not a fan of any double action gun. Because like a SIG 226, I just, that first trigger pull, you're getting like 11 pounds, right?
Oh, it's double single,
that hammer back, like a Beretta 92 FS.
Yep.
You got that, whatever it is, 11-pound trigger pull, and then boom, it sets, and now you've got, whatever it is,
single
like
action.
5 pounds or whatever it is.
Yep.
So I'm not a big fan of double actions.
Same.
But yeah, I mean, I've shot 45s before, but they just, the grip is so narrow. I just can't seem to get enough meat on it to really feel like I'm controlling.
Actually, you might be able to find one used somewhere. Actually, Para Ordnance made a double stack 1911 that was actually very reliable. It was a pretty damn good gun.
Yeah, that was back in the day. They did have a double stack 45. Yeah, they did.
Did you notice the pun there, Dale? Where he said a very reliable 1911, like they're not normally reliable. Yeah, that was.
Hold on a second.
Who are you pointing at me?
I got a chance to throw Dale under the bus here. So, I never served in Delta, but it's my understanding that the unit actually changed from 1911s. I think they use Glock 34s now or something. I think they went to a Glock, and I know the Army did. I know Army SF did, but I think Delta went to the Glock as well.
Well, you know why, right? Because the 45 is actually very complex. All the controls on it. The mechanisms. So, it takes a guy with high intellect to be able to manage one of those guns, especially if you have a malfunction, something like that. There's a lot of things to do to it. So now they had to make it simple for the new kids, It's like, I just need a piece of plastic that I can point and pull the trigger, and that's it, So, we've changed, man.
If you get enough reps on anything, you'll get really good and efficient with it.
And that's that's what Dale, that's what you said, as far as you get a lot of experience with it. And I'll tell my students, say maybe a 1911 isn't ideal, especially for somebody new. But I usually direct them towards a striker fire 9mm, something to that extent, with no external safety, because the timeline's already limited. And add a safety or other mechanisms that they have to turn off without a lot of training. And we know a lot of people don't want to do a lot of training these days because, I got a gun, I know how to use it, and that's where it ends.
Well, or the instructor will hold someone to this arbitrary SF standard.
Yeah.
And like Mr. and Mrs. Johnson is not going to put 20 years of reps into a 1911 to get really good at turning that safety off and running the gun.
Very true.
So
it's got too much recall. Too much recall for the average person. It takes a little conditioning to manage that.
Yeah.
So it makes a big boom for a lot of people. That's more than they can tolerate. Actually, I found that, I also have a Springfield Army M1911 and a TRP, and I actually like it because with the barrel length and everything, it's actually very stable. And like I said, I can pull that thing out cold gun. I not even shoot it for a year, pull it out and start. Hitting and nailing the X-ring super fast because it is a nice flat recoil on the gun. But for some people, it's just too much. The big bang sound and stuff like that. So they need a little girly gun, like a Glock. Like that.
Well, not to mention the cartridge itself, but when you look at a striker fire gun, you have so much of a shorter bore axis and less mass on top of the slide.
That's
so
right.
In recovery, man, I can get 3 shots off in the time I can get 2 with a 1911, and I'm pretty good. I'll take the Pepsi challenge. I'm a pretty good shooter, but you don't have that extra weight of the slide moving back, which is where you get your muzzle flip, because it doesn't go up when you go bang, it goes bang and then slide goes back and then it goes up.
Right. Yeah. That's a lot of people don't understand what actually causes recoil, and that's an excellent description of it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're not holding the gun properly, it's going to jump, sure. But, the vast majority of that muzzle flip is when the slide goes rearward.
That's right.
It's funny you said that because, I look at a lot of firearms instructors today, and so when you look at I got my SIRT gun here. When you look at my support hand grip, right, normally they just grab like this and they point both thumbs forward and they think, okay, I got the right grip. Actually, they don't. When this grip first came out, Jerry Barnhart and John Shaw, the whole idea was to cant your wrist, right? It's going to feel uncomfortable. And the reason why, once you grab it, it's going to actually manage the recoil. That's why you have this grip, right? And so most people still just grab like this. They think this is proper because I got it, my thumbs are paid going forward, but they're still getting a lot of flip in the gun. But if you lock your wrist, it should feel very uncomfortable. And if you do it right, you really can't even extend your arms all the way out. Okay, ergonomically, it just doesn't fit. But the gun's actually stable, and your recoil is easier, which allows you to do what? Reacquire your sights much faster for second trigger pull.
Yeah, if you just re-engage your shoulders, it's right back down on it.
Right.
Yeah. So, a lot of instructors out there miss that point. All they're doing is copycatting everybody else in their form, but they don't understand that, it's actually the form that facilitates the function. And the function is to manage the recoil, keep that gun flat and level after every shot so you can shoot faster and more accurately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dale, you should check out, I did an article on Personal Defense Network called Bone Support and a Heavy Backbeat. And I talked about how the bones work when you're playing drums and when you're shooting. I had the opportunity to take a picture of myself with an X-ray with that thumb all the way forward. And you can see how getting that bone in line, it really locks it in there. Like I can't move my wrist, so it limits that movement. Mm-hmm. So re-engaging the shoulders will just put it right back down on.
And not only that, that support thumb, all you do is point it at your target. I'm going to shoot that target, that target, that target.
And human beings are really good at that.
It's just like Billy the Kid when he was a kid. He'd walk up behind people and just point at them.
Yeah, Mom didn't need sights to poke me in the chest when I mouthed off when I was a kid. She just poked me with the. Hey, humans are real good at that.
Hey, I'm Larry Vickers of Vickers Tactical, and this is Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro.
Meet the Pressers.
I was not brought on to dual survival, okay, as a survival expert, okay? I am not a survival expert. When I got on the show, I knew basically what a special operations guy would know. Basic stuff, just basic stuff. Because here's the deal. If you're rubbing sticks together on a mission, you done screwed up really bad, okay? You need to be taken out of the gene pool real fast, okay? It's called a freaking lighter, okay? But so I was brought into dual survival to represent a different viewpoint on survival. And my viewpoint was from the special operations side, okay? We get good gear and all this, regardless of what training you have. I don't care what survival school you've been to. My philosophy is be prepared.
Yeah. Because
if you put yourself in an austere environment, okay, and you are reduced to rubbing, sticks together to make a fire, you've had it. You will not survive. I'm here to tell you.
Right.
Look, I worked with the best guys on the planet. Matt Graham was my last partner. That dude was amazing. He was a physical stud and athlete, and I watched that guy do things that I never thought you could do, making fires. And he failed at times. It's not just about, here's 2 pieces of dry wood, and I'm going to rub them together and make it. Doesn't work that way. There's all kinds of things that go into it. But yeah, I'm more about the preparedness, making a bug out bag, what you should have, ways to avoid getting in that survival situation. Because let me tell you something, guys, once you're in it, your survival clock is tick tock, tick tock, tick. I want to share a really funny story. And Dale, I've never told you this. And if you're going to laugh, you need to turn the other way. All right. So no lie, guys. This is a true story. When I was on dual survival, it was the second season I was on. We were off. We weren't shooting. And a very close friend of mine asked me to go fishing with him on the Tar River, okay, which is up near Raleigh. And so it was wintertime. It was December, snowing. And what we were going to do is we were going to go upriver about 3 miles on his little trolling motor and just turn it off and just float down the river, and he was just going to fish. We were just going to hang out. We hadn't seen each other for a while, we're going to talk. So we go up there, we go up the river, and now to paint the picture, it's snowing, there's snow on the ground, ice alongside the river. We go up, we turn the engine off, and we're floating down. We probably made it a third of the way, and as we're floating, a bunch of deer that were laying on the side of the river popped up, and this huge buck, and my buddy stood up, and he's like, look at this. And guess what happened? Bloop. Flipped the boat. No bullshit.
Damn.
In the water we went. over our heads. I remember seeing his tackle box floating. Of course, your adrenaline's dumping. And I don't know if you guys know when you fall in the cold water, you get that. It's called the mammalian reflex.
Yep.
You go, right? And that's what causes people to drown. It's not the water so damn cold. It's just as soon as they fall in it, it's a contraction of your sternum, and you go, and you just suck down water, and you've had it. I remember seeing the boat literally look like the Titanic going down, and I'm like, uh-oh, this is bad. Okay, this is really bad. So no lie, we get out of the water. I'm saying, dude, this way. Come on, let's get out of the water. We get out of the water, soaking wet. I knew we were about 2 miles away from where his truck was. And I literally, he was shocked. And I grabbed him. I said, listen to me. Take your jacket off right now. Because we had these down jackets on. I literally felt like I had body armor on. I said, no, I can't take my jacket off. I said, take it off right now. And we are running to the truck. Because we will not make it back if we walk.
Well, and the running too will get your blood going. And
Yes. Dude, it was, I think it was like 15 degrees out.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. So we take our jackets off, and here we are running through the snow, soaking wet. I remember hearing my boots, right? And so we get to where we put the boat in, and we get to the truck. And when I get there, I'm like, dude, please tell me you've got your keys, right? Because I thought we fixed everything. He had them in his pocket.
Oh, thank
so
God.
He couldn't even unzip his jacket. I remember I couldn't. When
Loss
you're
of
freezing
dexterity.
cold, you can't do this,
Yeah,
right?
dexterity loss.
Couldn't do. Dude, I barely unzipped his jacket. Could not open up his door. Busted out his back window with a rock to get in his truck so we could get in. Took the keys out and stripped down butt naked and turned the heat on. Yeah. We were that close to buying it, dude. We were ashing.
Talk about shrinkage.
Bro, it looked like a tick on a fur coat. I ain't lying. You know what I'm saying? But, dude, we were ashing. I remember I sat in the driver's seat because he was really bad, and I pulled down the visor, and I was ashing. I was straight up look gray. And no joke, here I am, guy on the survival show, and real world, no joke. I haven't shared that story with a lot of people because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing only because everything deep sixed with the boat. Everything. It just went down this river, and we had to get out, and we ran back. That's what saved us. And here's the other thing, dumping our jackets.
You wouldn't have been able to do that.
Because that made us run faster. You know what I mean? That was a real world, no BS that happened to me while I was on Dual Survival. I actually almost put it in my book, and after I read the story, I'm reading it right, and I'm like, damn, you look dumb. I went.
I'm glad you shared it here.
This is where we go cut. You heard this on Meet the Pressers first. That's awesome.
Hello, this is Ed Morellis. I'm the author of FBI Miami Firefight, my book outlining the incident that happened in Miami, Florida on April 11th, 1986. I'm glad to be part of Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro.
Meet the Pressers.
Go ahead and tell everyone your individual websites and then the website for your new venture.
Yes, sir. So I just came out with a book called Lone Operator. You can get it on Amazon. Just type at the top Lone Operator by Joseph Teti. And you can get it in Kindle form and hardback, paperback. And then Dale and I started a company called Tier 1 Performance Coaching. Website's tier1performancecoaching.com. And check out the video. It's really cool. For those of you that want to take your game to the next level and learn some really interesting stuff like psychosoma engineering and how to perform at a level that, quite frankly, you probably aren't aware that you can perform at, we can help you. And, Dale's an expert at this stuff. I've actually learned a lot of stuff from him. So, yeah, check us out, guys.
That's awesome.
All right. Oh, you want something from me?
Yeah, go ahead. If you like.
American Badass from Amazon.com. Buy Joe's book and my book and use them as bookends. There you go.
After you gain all the knowledge from reading them.
Yeah. But we're easy to find, by the way. We're all over social media. And oh, by the way, just a caveat, I'm actually writing 5 more books right now, literally, about my
Overachiever.
life experiences since I wrote American Badass, which has been about 7-8 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a bit, and I'm hoping that one of these will become a movie someday. So, anyways, that's one of my other things I've been involved in lately, among all the other things I'm doing. So,
That's awesome.
anyways, there we are.
Cool.
Super.
Well, thanks again for coming
Yes,
on
guys.
the show.
All
Thanks
right,
again, guys.
Appreciate it,
Thanks,
brothers.
gentlemen.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
This is Meet the Pressers.
What I want to show you today is the med kit by Mountain Man Medical. As we look inside of this med kit, it has a lot of the things that you would want to have for a trauma kit that you might have on your person for training, but also in case you need to patch up a family member. Part of our job as a family first responder is not only to protect our family, but also to offer medical treatment if for some reason they might need it. So in here we have a tourniquet. I would recommend as soon as you get this kit that you take the tourniquet out of the packaging. This is a cat tourniquet. The cat tourniquet is one of the very tried, trusted, and true types of tourniquets that the military has used for many years overseas. Typically, I would recommend a cat tourniquet or perhaps a soft T tourniquet. Either one of those have a lot of track record that we can fall back upon as being very reliable. And you want to open it up so that it's large. This way it's easier to deploy if we have to put it on. Also inside of here is a pair of shears. For some of those wounds that we might need to put a bandage directly onto skin, we don't want to make matters worse by pulling out a pocket knife and maybe causing a bigger problem than what we had. So a pair of shears or a safety cutter would be something that I would include inside of a kit. Also in this kit, they have an ace bandage, which is very useful. You can use this for many things, from wrapping up a sprain to making a splint, or even to hold down a bandage and add some compression if there's bleeding. There are some small packets of gauze that can be used to stuff a wound. Rubber gloves here that are neatly packaged. Don't forget your own personal protection equipment. We want to avoid those blood-borne pathogens. And then a Sharpie that you can use to put times or other information on the patient that might be useful to those responding EMS that are on their way. In here we also have a quick clot dressing. This has chemicals in it that promotes clotting, so you might want to put this on a wound and then wrap it up, and it'll help that clotting to start. There is also a 4-inch trauma bandage, compression bandage that can be used. This would need to go on to skin. We have a Swat Tourniquet. Swat Tourniquet's like a big rubber band. It's a very good secondary tourniquet. Not as easy or as efficient to deploy as, say, the cat tourniquet, but definitely a great secondary. It also can be used to make splinting, to tie up an arm, whatever. I actually keep one of these because my son has very small arms, and this cat tourniquet might not apply on him as efficiently as this one would. So if you have children, you might consider having a Swat tourniquet in your pack as well. Having both of these in the same kit is a pretty cool thing. I think it's awesome that Mountain Man Medical included both of them in. And then lastly, we have the chest seals. Chest seals are purpose-built for what's called a sucking chest wound. And if there's a hole in the chest, air is going to be getting in there that will ultimately collapse the lung and maybe push the guts to one side and cause heart attacks and all kinds of terrible things. The chest seals essentially act like a sticker, but they have a valve on them, and they allow air to escape but not to come in. And of course, there's 2 of them here, weighing the plausibility principle, meaning anything's possible, but some things are more probable. If you were on the range training where you were using full metal jackets, the likelihood of there being an entry wound and an exit wound is there. So I recommend having 2 on you, especially in the training environment. Gunshot wounds on the range are very, very rare. However, when they do happen, often they revolve around some type of holster work. So make sure you're presenting from a holster in a very safe and prudent way. Make sure you're getting that gun clear of the holster before you orient and extend through the ready position to get the gun parallel into your line of sight. Also, when reholstering, make sure that you take the time to slowly and reluctantly watch the gun go back into the holster. There is no prize for putting the gun back into the holster quickly. Stay armed, stay safe, and be well regulated.
There's a lot of sponsors that make this show possible, like Mantis.
Make sure you check them out and give them your business.
This episode is brought to you by Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is sponsored by Next Level Training, Saber Red, Cutting Edge Bullets, the USCCA, McLean Corporation, ASP, Custom Poker Chip Company, Common Sense Self-Defense, and T1 Ammunition. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you!
Thanks for watching the show.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, click the little bell, come on Patreon, help support us that way, come to one of our classes, or host us, we can come to you and do one of our courses at your location.
So until next time,
adieu.
Thank you for watching Meet the Pressers.